Hey everybody, welcome to a very special Hangout series here that we've been doing on Google Plus entitled How to Live in Alignment with the Call of Your Soul, 4 Keys to Living in Your Sweet Spot. I'm your host, Carrie Roldan, and I'm a wife, a mother, an author, a personal growth junkie, and your total business BFF. I host a weekly hangout on air called The Carrie Roldan Show, where my aim is to support mompreneurs in body, mind, and business. I believe so wholeheartedly in the mompreneurial dream, and I really do want to support others on the journey, and that's why I've created a Google Plus community called, what else? Business Besties, for mompreneurs and those with a heart or a business for serving mompreneurs. So we can get there, gather in one place, and be each other's business BFFs. So to join, simply go into Google Plus and search for Business Besties, or you can use this funky link in my lower third, which is the goo.gl link, and all of those letters and numbers that follow it. I don't know what, I can't figure out how to make it pretty, and it's like a link that's this long, so there it is. It will be there all show long. When you get a chance, type that link in. Okay, but this special series I started because tomorrow I'm launching a book. I'm finally launching my book called Run Yourself Happy, and it is a 5-week training program to release anxiety and create space for miracles. And what I found myself when I was writing that book, what I found myself doing was constantly referring to the call of my soul. And so I put this series together because I wanted to have a bunch of awesome women who were doing exactly that. They were people I've met along my mompreneurial journey who I was like, yeah, they're doing it. They're living in the call of their soul. And I want that. I want what they're doing. And I wonder how they do that. And so that's what I did. So here we are. And so far, in our special Hangout series, we have spoken to Kelly Jo Murphy, who helped us shift from doing to being. And then we spoke with Cindia Carrere, who enlightened us to the reality. This was my big takeaway from her show, that intuition is not the voice. It's not the call of our soul, but rather how we interpret it. And I'd never thought of it that way, right? That the intuition is our connection with that voice. And I thought that was really cool. So that was my holy shift, FT. That was my holy shift moment from that show. But as we delve further into the 4 keys to living in our sweet spot, we have Trisha Savovia, and she's going to be our guide. So in case you forgot, I've defined the 4 keys to living in alignment with the call of your soul as 1, you hear it; 2, you listen to it, which we keep talking about how that's different; 3, and as a parent, parents, we all know the difference between hear and listen; 3, act on it; and 4, live from it. And again, those 2 are slightly different, right? It's one thing to act on the voice of your intuition one time. It's another thing to live from that place, to surrender to it. But it's the how of these 4 keys that seems to trip most of us up, and that's why I'm so excited to talk to Trisha. So I met Trisha via Skype, and this was before I was a total hangout whore. And I think we met because a friend said, oh, you work with moms, you need to know this lady. And so we connected, and instantly I was like, oh, I love you, you're singing my song, I want to be your best friend. And I just knew that I had to know her. Not only is Trisha a mompreneur, but she's the author of Soulful Parent, How to Nurture Your Child's True Self, and set the stage for growth and fulfillment. And you guys, as I was preparing for this show, I read her bio again, or the story on her website, and it is freaky deaky how much her story resonates with my own. And I just know that when that happens, if Trisha and I share that story, that it's not just this freak coincidence that it's the 2 of us, that there's just so many of it. I read her story and it just resonated. Everything that I've gone through and everything that I know so many of you guys are going through, which is why I seriously can't wait to talk to her, so I'm going to stop jabbering so that we can. So Trisha is joining us from Calgary, Alberta, where it is colder than I can even fathom right now. But I just want to put you up on screen, Trisha. Don't forget to unmute yourself and say hello. So hello, Trisha.
Hello, yeah. And I'll just do a quick correction. So, because I know it's tricky, it's Trisha Savoia.
Oh, Savoia.
Yeah, my husband's Italian, so Savoia is how it goes. But no worries on that.
I've been doing that wrong for forever now.
I actually use it even as you were saying yours. I'm like, oh, Roldan. Okay. I can't, you say it how, it goes in your head. Anyway, so good try.
Well, thanks. I do that. I am the worst name butcherer, and so I'm sorry. I did it in the show description. I did it over and over again. So Trisha Savoia with the Italian husband.
Like, Trisha who?
Yeah. Who? How can I can't find this woman on the internet.
Exactly.
All right. So let's delve right in. So I've been asking my guests on this series, I've been asking them two basic questions. We talk about the 4 steps because they just sort of emerged out of my first conversation with Kelly Jo, where we're like, these seem to be the 4 keys, and everyone I talk to, they seem to resonate those. But I got 2 basic questions for you in this half-hour show, and one is, how do you do it? How do you live in the call of your soul? And then how do you help other people to do it? But before I get there, for those people who haven't read your bio yet, could you just give me the briefest story of how you got to be where you are now, where you're helping other people to live in the call of their soul?
Yeah, sure. Well, so yeah, it kind of started with me not listening to my intuition at all. That's where it all began. So I was a teacher for 10 years, and during that time, yeah, I was in this place of just not feeling very happy. Like I'd wake up and feel like crying, but I didn't know what all that meant. Like now, looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, my soul was like screaming at me. Now I listen, but at the time it wasn't. So it went on a little bit longer, and then something just shifted, and like the heavens opened, and I got the message, and just started on this path. Then, so I think we're all on a spiritual journey, but I became conscious of my spiritual journey and just really anchored into it and stayed the course. And then through just the shifts and changes, I realized like what I was learning and how much happier I was that I actually could share this. And so that's kind of how it, a really brief synopsis of how it kind of all evolved. And it continues to evolve.
So gladly my computer just pointed out that I've muted myself. But so freaky deaky-ness wise, I too was a teacher, and felt that, and it's funny, right? Because you're exactly what you're saying. It doesn't feel like I'm on a spiritual journey. It just feels like I felt empty, hollow sinkingness inside of me, and I didn't even recognize that I was living in constant anxiety because I had lived there for so long that felt normal. That was like, oh, that's not anxiety. That's just, I just have to take a breath and then remember I'm just always going to feel like this, but I'll live, I'll survive. And so I think that's so interesting, right? That we're all on this spiritual journey, but we don't necessarily recognize like that anxiety that I had. Oh, that could be the call of my soul, right?
Well, and because so many people are telling us, like, you're a teacher, oh, that's awesome, you get your summers off, right? Like, whatever it is different for different people. But, like, we're getting bombarded with all these outside messages, so then we feel something's wrong with us, that, we're not feeling this joy that we're supposed to be feeling, and then we live with these facades. So, yeah, totally, and then it just takes, some nudging to get us to wake up to it all.
Okay, so let's first say hi to everyone who is joining us. I was just telling Trisha, like, oh, there's nobody here, but don't worry, sometimes that happens. And wouldn't you know, like, the girls are here. So hi, Sherry. Hi, Milani. Hi, Pamela. I wish I could get Comment Tracker to work, but I still can't. So I'll be watching your comments as they come in on one of my screens and watching Trisha on the other. But yeah, hey, everybody, welcome. And we're glad you're here. Go ahead and comment away and maybe let us know if you are feeling the call of your soul now, and what that looks and feels like for you, what that nudging is. Meanwhile, Trisha, let's get into it, right? So you kind of said, okay, that was how you heard it, or that was how you recognized it, was that you didn't feel good. So then what?
Well, for me, it was like, honestly, I think I think this is a really vital point, is to start paying attention to the signs. So, because I think we don't acknowledge that there's signs all the time. So what ended up happening for me, I just had this like overwhelming urge that I had to watch this one particular Oprah show. And it turned out it was all about The Secret. And even though I'm almost hesitant to even say that that's what woke me up, because now looking back, it's such a superficial, surface level thing. But you know what? I think it did wonders for so many people in waking us up. And then you just continue on the path. And I mean, it evolves over time. But that was that sign of just, whoa, you need to watch this. And it was my first knowing of, okay, life can be different. Really? Like I'm like a co-creator in this? Right? And so after that, like the ball just started rolling. And it just opened up a whole new realm of realizing that I can actually do something different, and it doesn't have to look this way that I thought I was going to be stuck in forever.
So I just realized that I did not do the greatest job in introducing you, because I don't think I mentioned what it is you do. Like, I'm like, oh, you help people live in the call of your soul. But it would probably be helpful at this point that people knew the work that you do now. And yes, Trisha does help people live in the call of their soul. But yeah, so maybe this is my question then, is how did that one moment, right, of watching The Secret, which, by the way, my awakening was also Oprah, and it was Louise Hay. It was the 20th anniversary of her book, You Can Heal Your Life, which is, I watched The Secret episode too, but same exact thing. Like, it's just one book that leads to another, that leads to another, that leads to another, and then here we are on a hangout doing this. So yeah, give us a brief, just let us know what it is that you do now, and then we'll hop back into the conversation.
Okay, so yeah, so I kind of started from that, as I was realizing that there was so much within that I needed to kind of look at and explore. I actually started with a program that I called the Integrity Code. So that was my first thing, and now it's led into what I do, and my focus on is with working with parents, which is the soulful parent. And it's truly about letting kids be who they are while remembering who we are. That's as simple as I can put it. It's just, we have forgotten who we are. And our kids are so highly intuitive and highly sensitive that if we just allow them to hold on to that, that as they grow and evolve, they don't have to grow and recover themselves like some of us have had to, right? Like, for me, it's been a journey. It's been quite the journey, because I shut that intuition down so well that it's been this like continual opening up to it. But once having my kids and just seeing how intuitive they are, I'm like, wow, like, they don't need to lose this. And so, as we were kind of talking about before, I mean, they were such teachers for me in that, and kind of reflecting back to me some of the parts of myself I had let go to sleep. And then, yeah, it just became a really big passion of mine to like work with the parents and the adults, so that not only is it being woken up within themselves, it's also really beneficial to their kids, because their kids never have to shut it down. So I kind of refer to it as a 2-for-1.
So I love that. It's a twofer. It's a total twofer. Yeah, so I'm sorry that I didn't do you justice in that, because that's a hugely important thing. And so if you didn't catch that, and I expect at any moment Sherry is going to write, Sherry's like so great at catching the magic phrases and writing them down, putting them in the comment section for us. No pressure, Sherry. But what you just said is so important. So hopefully I got it right. You said you work with parents, but that it is let their kids be who they are while we remember who we are.
Exactly.
And I think that, I mean, we were talking about this in the green room, right, that it is I was saying there's this book that my friend keeps telling me about that I haven't read, but it is called How Our Children Parent Us. And I think for so many of us who are, right, I mean, my audience is a lot of mompreneurs. So many of us who are mompreneurs, we get into this because our life takes a different tack, say. We go a different direction because we have kids. And suddenly, when we have kids, one, they are great teachers, right? They teach us all the things in ourselves that need to be healed. But they also, at least I know that it did for me, it made me want to be better. It made me want to be, especially once they got past the baby phase and I would hear them say things that I knew had come from my own mouth. And it just made me want to be a better human being because of, I wanted them to be great human beings, right? And so, yeah, and so that is, anyways, so that's that. But I want to ask you mainly because we could jabber on forever and we only have like 15 minutes left. I want to ask you, what is it that you do now, not in your work, but for your personal self? What do you do now to take yourself through those 4 steps of hearing your intuition, listening to it, acting on it, and living from that place, right? Living from the place where you are 90% of the time, hopefully living in alignment with the call of your soul.
Well, I really do think some sort of practice is important because it keeps us anchored in that energy. And I can tell you, I mean, I'm a big believer in journaling and meditating and all that sort of thing, but I haven't always been consistent. Like, you know, over time, like you get busy or you just feel you don't have the time or priorities come, you know, in other forms and it seems like, oh, I just don't have the time. However, over time, now for me, it's just a non-negotiable. It's just non-negotiable. Every single day, I take time for myself. And it usually looks in the form of journaling. And as I had mentioned to you, I'm a chai tea latte lover. Starbucks is like my second office. And so I have what some people would deem an addiction, and I refer to it as a ritual. And so my ritual every day is having my tea, I'm journaling, and in my journaling it looks different every day, but the consistency in it is just connecting to the divine and realizing I'm not doing this all on my own. So what I end up saying in it every day is, where will you have me go today? What will you have me do? Who will you have me talk? What will you have me say, and to whom? And then what miracles are in store for today? And that's like every single day. So that it's a reminder to myself that I'm not doing this alone. Because for a long time, I've really felt like I had to figure it out on my own. I had to do it all on my own. And I was such a doer that the whole idea of being was really foreign. And so that's what my practice looks like. And then I really love what you're saying about living it, because I mean that's the key too. Like I got into this place where I'm like, I'm really good at being. Like I can just like be, and the self-care, I was so good at it. But you know, I wasn't always fully living it then. Like I'd listen, I'm like, yeah, that sounds good. You know, but this is nice, just hanging out doing nothing. Like, you know, I was like just in this blissful place of hoping things would just fall into place, with sometimes me not having to do anything, because there is definitely a place for doing, a place for action, and but it needs to be joyful and inspired action is what it ends up being. And so one of the things that I've really worked with the people, like with my clients and stuff, is we're so unaccustomed to listening to our intuition that we don't even know what it is. Like we get so confused of what the messages are, and we are also beings who are very hard on ourselves and tend to have this idea like, oh, am I doing this wrong? So what I find very, very helpful, I found this for myself, and then when in working with people, you know, the same thing, is what I call intuition experiments. Because we aren't used to listening to our intuition. So as we're getting more in adjustment to this, and it just becomes our way of being, there's going to be this transition time of truly trusting the intuition hits that we're getting. And so sometimes we might think, oh yeah, this is what it is. So I really advocate listening to, like, okay, this is the choice I need to make. Like, what is it that I want? And that's when we get in our heads, right? So when we're in our heads, just getting back into our bodies and just like, okay, well, this is what I'm feeling now, but I'm still not really sure. And so then instead of like putting the weight of like, I need to figure this out, just like relaxing and understanding, you know what, it doesn't matter. Either choice is going to be perfect, and it'll always adjust, right, to what's for our best and highest good. So just pay attention to our body in that moment, make a decision, and then call it an intuition experiment. So then when we're experimenting, it's not so like heavy and so much pressure on us. And then depending on how it turns out, we'll know, like what I've found is like I can kind of like look back and be like, oh, okay, well that didn't really turn out the way I thought that it was going to. And I remember this is how I was feeling. So now I know when I'm feeling this, this is what my intuition's telling me. So intuition experiments are a great way to kind of get into this practice of really trusting it. So now I trust my intuition a lot more. I mean, there's always room for growth, but like I'm just in a place where trust is how I live for the most part. And when those moments come up, which they still do, I try not to be hard on myself and just realize, you know what, it's okay. And whatever choice I decide, if I call it an intuition experiment, it won't be so heavy.
So I have to tell you that I just recently did that, right? Because I thought for the longest time, and then I have some comments that are like coming fast and furious. And hi, Kristen Drysdale, I see you there now. But what I did this intuition experiment with Cindia Carrere, right? With someone, she was helping me, someone who is highly intuitive and trained, and she was helping me like you are, right? Like that, what you do with your parents, not your actual parents, but the parents that you work with. She was saying, okay, what are you feeling right now? And helping me determine an intuitive hit, which is a yes or a no. And what was so revealing for me is that in my body, and I wouldn't have guessed this if I hadn't have done the experiment, in my body, I get an intuitive hit if there's a reaction. So I used to think that if it felt bad, that it was my intuition saying, no, don't do it. But as it turns out, sometimes it's just fear. So if I get like a visceral response, it's usually a yes. In this experiment, I was asking my intuition yes and no questions. And if I get a flat line, that's my no. And so for the longest time, when I got the fear or the anxiety or the worry, or I wanted to cry or whatever came up, I would think that was an intuitive no. But really it was that, hey, my body is responding to this, and you know, maybe I have to look at the how. But anyways, point being, the experimenting was huge for me. And I can imagine that part of the experimenting process is what you've already alluded to, is the journaling and the keeping track, so that then you can remember what your hit was. Okay, so I want to go to our comments because we have so many. So Sherry is saying her intuition experiments remind her of Pam Grout's ebook, or E Squared, which was like a huge inspiration for me writing Run Yourself Happy. So yay, she loves the idea of not taking it too seriously and playing, right, with just, I'm just going to try this, which is so great, right? And that's when you guys read Run Yourself Happy, which you will because you're going to buy it tomorrow. That's what it is. It's these fun experiments to take out with you on a run. And I wanted to read something that Meilani had written, because I think it's important, and maybe you can speak to it. But she says, I'm in the process of figuring out how to integrate the calling of my soul into my own business and attract the kinds of clients and projects that fit in with that. It was very much feeling it was in alignment when I had a regular job, but then I got laid off and had to go into business for myself. I found I like being in business for myself, but that integration hasn't come as easily. And in 2015, I will be focusing more on that. So, so she's not asking a parenting question, but just as the mompreneur questions, is that something that you can speak to?
Because I've absolutely experienced that, right? Like, because this is one of the things that I really found for myself and for a lot of other people who are entrepreneurs, is that we're still coming from that old energy, right? There's that old energy attached to how we're moving forward in business. And so for a lot of us old souls, it's not feeling right, but yet we're not really knowing how it looks on the other side, right? So it's so scary. So there was a long time for myself where I was making myself wrong for not feeling like doing some of the stuff that I've been told that needs to be done in business. And I wasn't trusting my intuition because there's always this like background, like, yeah, but you're being told that this is how it needs to be done and this is how it works. So I really, really found that whole thing around rules and structures and how it needs to be done, like, I was in resistance to it. Like, I was like, oh, I'm not doing it that way. But at the same time, like, oh, but I should be. And it was like such a tug of war within myself that it was like this easing process of like truly being able to hand over the trust and knowing that it's my intuition that's going to guide me and no one outside of me. So it's really, I was finding for myself what I was doing was I was making my business and everything outside, like everything outside of me, my source. And what I had to realize is like it's all within me and I'm the source. So for me, it's not even about attracting. Everything is absolutely within me and it's a matter of being revealed through me. And that really just calmed me because I'm like, I don't have to attract anything. It's already here. It's already within me. I just need to relax, let the resistance and the walls down, forget about the structures and the rules. Because I've had people, I'm like, I kind of feel like a rebel sometimes. Like I just am rebelling against this stuff. But it's because my soul was saying, yeah, no, hello, this isn't the way for you. So I'm not sure if I touched on it 100%, but that's just like in business, that has been by far my biggest spiritual learning because I had to really let go of the mind stuff I had created around it and just be like, okay, it's my intuition that's going to lead me to where I want to be.
Well, you just hypnotized me in that while you were talking, normally when a guest says something super duper profound, I immediately scribble it down because I want to post it in the comments later. But I just froze and got chills when you talked about, I just think, so everyone watching, sorry, well, I have my little revelation right now, but that is something I so needed to hear in this very moment as I've been like stressing out about my book launch and trying to get it just right and all these things I didn't do because whatever, I wish I would have, but it's too late now. Is it too late? Could I still squeeze it in? Point being, I've been in that place of having anxiety around the attraction, right? Like wanting, like there's a little desperation around the attraction or knowing, right? Especially when we live and work in this field and we do what we do and we help other people you listen to the call of their souls. Yeah, just what you just said about remembering that it's all within me. I don't have to attract it. I just have to relax and let it reveal itself was like exactly what I needed to hear. So thank you. And as always, I know when it's what I need to hear, it's what a lot of people watching need to hear. So thank you. So it is nearly 11 o'clock, and I haven't even given you a chance to tell everybody exactly what you have going on right now. And because Trisha is actually, this couldn't have been better timing because she has a program, I think, starting tomorrow. So you want to tell us about that, Trisha?
Yeah, and I just want to plant the seed for this down the road too, because what we were talking about right now is where my heart's leading me even further, and I had mentioned to you, I have a program that's going to be coming up called Soul Immersion, which is all about this, right? It's like remembering it's within us and being revealed. So that's just like a little capsule of that. But right now, what I'm really excited about doing, because where my heart is, I mean, anyone who's a parent, of course, your heart is where your kids are. And so I am doing a 10-week Soulful Parent program. And so it starts tomorrow, but it is self-paced, right? So I'm going to be doing 3 live calls for it where the Q&A and all that's going to be answered, but there's no, like, we're moms, right? So I love having the freedom to be able to listen and read whenever it works for you. So yeah, so that's happening, and once again, it's all about allowing our kids to be who they are, while we're remembering who we are and allowing ourselves to be who we are, because our kids are picking it up, and they're going to call us on our stuff as well. So it's just really understanding that the old way of parenting just isn't working for our kids anymore. They're so much more highly intuitive, aware than ever before, so we need to parent them in a different way. And it also does boil down to recognizing what's within ourselves. So yeah, so there's that. Should I give the link now? Okay. So so you can find.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm also typing it in the comment section.
Oh, okay. Okay. I was. I'm good at charades. I could see what you're motioning. So yeah. So it's absoluteawareness.ca and then backward slash, or how do you say? Is it backward slash? Whatever. You know what I mean. The slash. Soulful dash parent. So yeah, check that out. I definitely would love for anybody who this resonates to join me, because it's such a powerful program. And this is actually a real example of intuition. This was a download. Like, it came through me so fast, so quick a couple years ago that I know it was coming through me for sure.
Oh my gosh. So again, with the freaky deakiness, but I have exactly the same experience with Run Yourself Happy. This is when you know you're doing your work in the world, right? I mean, you know, if you've written a book or you've put out this big project, like, it comes through in a download and you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, the world needs to know this. And I always feel like it's as much a message for me as it is for anybody else. But yeah, it's just, having said that, now that I'm in this phase, right, of about to launch it, I'm going back through the book and reading it, and I'm like, wow, where did that come from? Yeah, like, I'm impressing the pants off myself, but it's more from a place of knowing, like, that is so not me. I mean, I wrote it and I believe in it, but exactly what you're saying just came through. And that is really cool. So we're going to go a minute or two over, because I want to read just a few comments, especially from Meilani, because you addressed her stuff. She says, oh my gosh, Trisha Savoia, not with the extra V. I've so had that experience recently, talking about it being inside of you. She said, I stopped listening to outside influences saying what I should be doing and who had negative reactions to what I said I feel I should be doing instead, and went with what I felt I should be doing. And the results have been so good. You are so right. Thanks, Carrie Roldan, for bringing up that topic. And then there was one also that you just started bringing about parents, and Pamela Zeman says, oh, was it Pamela? Well, I can't find it right now. Oh, here it is. Pamela says, my nephews are total indigo children, right? The whole thing about recognizing that our children are intuitive and highly intuitive, and even maybe each generation of children that is being born seems more intuitive than the last. But she's kind of says, sadly, they're fed junk food and fast food, and the chemicals shut down their intuition. It's easier for them to remember who they are when they get organic whole foods. And while we don't have time to actually discuss that, I think it's a no-brainer, right? When you're in alignment with who you really are, when you're in alignment with the call of your soul, it's sort of a natural thing to do what Trisha was talking about, the self-care. And I mean, Trisha, I'll bring you on just real quickly to talk about that, because one, to ask if your program has anything to do with that, with how we feed our kids, but two, maybe what you've noticed about it.
Actually, I'm glad you asked that, because this is a thing that I find so important, is because we can have these blanket statements of, like, it has to be organic food, or it has to look this way, or they need to have this amount of time. And what I've really advocate is it's different for every kid. So to me, it's not about that it has to be this way, because that's where I think we get into that place of, like, oh, I'm wrong. Or that's where the whole judgment in parenting comes about, because they're not doing it this way or whatever. So yeah, like, when it feels right, that's the direction that you want to go. But our kids know more. They understand their bodies so much better than we do, that we need to listen to them. And so it's like, if we provide them with the best that we can provide them, but you know what? Like, it's so much more about really tuning into the intuition and trusting that even if it doesn't look how we've been told from society and all these, you know, like, whatever it is, like, whether it's discipline or whether it's food or whatever it is, it may look different, and that's okay too, because it's dropping all judgments about anything and being open to it all. And, you know, God's got her back. The divine's got her back. So our body knows what to do even with that food that is less than ideal. So of course we want to nurture our body, like nourish our body in the best way we can, but it's also okay. And the only reason I touch on that is because we can be really hard on ourselves when we feel it has to be that way. And just maybe, you know, be like letting some of that go and being like, okay, I'm going to listen to my kids because they know best.
And
not oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, and I think that's awesome. I think we could go on, and we could have this conversation forever and ever and ever, because it's what you said before. She said, let our kids be who they are while we remember who we are. And oh my God, you're right. You're hitting it, because as parents, we're so like self-worried, and then we try and be the perfect parent, and we try and perfect our children. Maybe I'm blanket weeing here, but yeah, it is right. When you can get into a place of living from the call of your soul, then you are comfortable with, and this isn't what you said, but this is what I'm experiencing in my parenting, is I do want to feed my kids all organic all the time, but I don't. And as soon as I've gotten myself okay with that, like I'm doing what I can when I can, and I'm doing the very best I can, and I make sure that they're, you know, that I give them a variety of things to choose from, and yes, that I'm letting them, you know, I give them a variety of healthy things to choose from and let them sort of self-select, that it is amazing how they intuitively do pick the things that make them feel good, and avoid, my son avoids eggs, and just like recently found out, oh, that's because he has an egg allergy, and that's really cool, right? He's never liked eggs. He's always like, didn't want to do them, and there it is. There's the intuition. So we could talk forever and ever, but we are already 7 minutes over. So I just want to tell everybody, thank you for being here. Thank you for such a lively discussion today. Thank you, Trisha, for being your wise, wonderful self. If you want to get more from Trisha, you can go to absoluteawareness.ca, or about her program is absoluteawareness/soulful-parent. And I'm pretty sure I already put that in the yes, I did, in the comment section. So thank you for staying the few extra minutes, you guys. Thank you, Trisha, for being here. And I'm going to put you on the screen so you can wave and say goodbye.
Bye.
Oh, thank you. And everybody, check in with Trisha. And don't forget to join me again tomorrow, where I will have two amazing guests on my show. And it's the day of the book launch. It's going to be a total freaking joy fest, because we're going to be talking about what Trisha we talked about in the green room, and we just touched on it today, but it is the power of practice, and having what that practice is, and in particular a physical practice. So I'm all about running. I have somebody else who's all about singing. I have Lisa Ingalls who's coming on, who is also about running, and she has a practice of questioning, right? So she has a physical practice and a mental practice. Anyways, it's going to be awesome. You all need to be there. So join me and Lisa Ingalls and Ruth Wishingrad for tomorrow's episode, the final episode, in How to Live in Alignment with the Call of Our Soul, the 4 keys to living in our sweet spot. So thank you for being here, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Same time, same channel. Bye.